Hello again everyone, welcome back to Casterton Vintage. We're back in the workshop again this morning and we're going to make an attempt at putting the brakes back together on the International B275. If you make it to the end of the video, there's some archived working footage of this tractor, bindering and also some ploughing. We've got the plates relined, all ready to go. We've got everything clean. So the first thing to do is to put the brake assemblies back together. So we really need a little bit of lubrication on these splines. We won't put it on the shafts on the tractor, we'll put it on the splines on the plates, so we've got it where we want it and we won't have an excess of it, because these move very little distance but we don't want them to stick. We'll just use a little bit of this high melting point grease. Need to be quite sparing with this because we don't want it to get on the plate itself and upset the brakes, because that's the problem we were fighting in the first place. And we've got new rubber boots for them, look. I'll put this one on and put the one on the other one, because I wasn't sure how it would go together. We'll do that now. There we go, and we're all ready to go back on. We've changed the O-rings inside this diff lock plunger, so hopefully we won't have any more of this oil getting on the brakes. Just make sure everything's nice and clean before we put it all back together. First job is to put those back on, the inner disc, and then we should be able to lift the housing on. As long as we can get the outer disc to line up, we'll be okay. As I was saying, as long as we can get the outer disc to line up. There we go. We've got some bolts. And the one that goes right at the bottom is the one with the diff lock spring on that I showed you in part 1. with a socket and tighten them up. So we discussed this diff lock spring in the last video, and there was a job to take these springs off by the dealers, but this has been on here since 1961 and I'm leaving it on. Right, that's got everything just nicely snugged up. I think we're okay, so we'll go around and tighten it up properly. Next job, we'll put the diff lock arm back on. Looks like it needs a bit of a clean first. When I went to put this back on, I realised that the pin was quite tight, and that hasn't had grease for a long time, I'm ashamed to say. So I'll clean that up, we'll make sure the grease nipple works, and then we'll put it back together. So we've cleaned it up, the grease nipple now works. We'll put it back together and we'll give it a shot of grease. Maybe it would have been easier if I'd have hooked the spring on first. Let's have a rethink. Yeah, that was easier. Need a spanner now. Quite a lot of slack in that. I'm not sure if that's normal. I'm pretty sure that's how I took it apart, because I've got no more washers. But I'm going to go and look at another tractor and see if it's different. So this is the little 434, which uses basically the same skid unit with one or two modifications, and we'll just check the diff lock on it and see if it's different. And yes, it's got two washers and there's no slack. So somewhere in the life of the B275 it's lost a washer on the diff lock, so I'll have to go and make one if I can't find one. So we'll fire up Dean Smith and Grace. As the machinists among you will know, the Rolls Royce of lathes. Right, so let's see what we've got. Looks like a 3/4 hole. Yeah, just 19, nearly 20 mil, 3/4 clearance. Oh, and it's 30 mil OD, almost exactly. So we'll find a bit of 30mm bar, and that'll be perfect. And I've got just the thing. This is a reject part off of a CNC job that I'd make hundreds of these, and I keep a few of them and use them for bits and pieces, and this one's even got a hole up the end, look, where I've used it before, so I don't need to centre drill it. Perfect. So if you're wondering, yes, I have got a 3-jaw chuck, but it takes longer to swap the chuck over than it does to centre the job, and it's heavy as well, and I'm not 21 anymore. Just use the dial indicator to centre it up. I could manage without the dial indicator, but it's so much quicker with it. There we go, that's been a couple of foul, that'll do for a washer. I've located this drill that I think will do it in one pass. It's just fractionally over 3/4. And it's been here in this workshop longer than I have, I think. I'm not going to bother boring this or reamer it or anything, it's just a washer. The original one was probably punched, so if I can drill the hole the right size, we're winning. So the next job is to face that off, but before I do that, we'll put the digital readout on, because it makes life much simpler. We'll do a little bit more speed. Now we've finished drilling. I very rarely remove the parting tool from this lathe, because once it's set, better left set. But it's been out for the previous job, so we'll just get it put back in. I'm not over keen on this amount to stick out. We'll just shorten that up. That should do the trick. So now, in order to take off exactly a 2mm shim, I'm just going to touch off the parting tool on that front face. Just touch in. 0 the Z-axis on the readout, and then wind through 2mm plus the 3mm of the tip, which is 5mm, and part it off. and we won't bother with any coolant just for this one. They're carbide tip tools, that should be fine. I'll just use my Allen key just to catch that, so I don't have to look for it in the swarf. There we go. And there you have it. One new washer, specially made for the job, straight from International Harvesters stores. So I'm sure what you all want to know is, does it fit first time? Let's see. Look at that. Perfect. Now all I need to do is go back to the lathe and fetch the other washer, which I've left laying there. Hope I can still find it. Yeah, I found it. Let's see if we can put it all back together. So we've got the wide spacer on the outside, the thin spacer on the inside, and we've still got just a little bit of upstand on the pin, because obviously it mustn't go up tight. If I measure that, it should be about 0.25 of a millimetre, but we won't get that precise. I'm saying it should be 0.25 of a millimetre. I mean, I measured it and allowed 0.25 of a millimetre. I've no idea what International would have wanted it to be. There you go, look, nice and free. We'll just put a bit of grease in the grease nipple, and we'll just tighten it up to make sure it doesn't come undone. So that's the diff lock sorted, and the brake assembly back on. And the final part of the brakes is to put the actuator lever back in, or the actuator rod, and just screw it up from underneath. And these nuts here are where we make the adjustment, so you can guarantee we're going to be slackening these off and using that to set the brakes once we get the tractor running. So I think we're all set to put the mudguard back on. We'll just clean the mounting, and we'll clean the check chain mounting underneath. I've cleaned the bolts up, but I will just put a little bit of grease on them before I put them in the hole. I was always taught a little bit of grease saves you a lot of trouble when you come to take it apart again. Or as my grandfather used to put it, you might be the one who wants to take it to bits, boy. One nut, and the second nut, So next job, we'll put the handbrake back on whilst it's easier to get in without the wheel on. When you put the handbrake together, don't forget the spacers like I did. So that's the handbrake on and sorted. And I'm very glad I did it before I put the wheel on. But now we'll have a go and see if we can get the wheel on without struggling too much on our own. Now I have to be careful with this because it's got wheel weights inside it. So it's very heavy. And it's alright while you keep it up vertical like this, but if you just let it get away from you, it's best to move out the way. This is the bit where I remember I put the jack stand under after I took the wheel off, so I need to take it out. Or move it under further. The wheel weights are a bit of a frustration because you have to have the tractor in exactly the right place or the wheel gets stuck. Down a little bit more. I'm almost there. Just need a screwdriver just to turn the hub a little bit. Of course, because I'm on my own, I can't reach one. What have I got that I can reach? The jack handle. I'll let the jack down a little bit and then it'll hold the wheel. Right, so I'll just jack it back up again till it's loose. Let's see where we are. Up a touch more. Right, nuts and grease. So a lot of people will say don't put grease on wheel nuts. Well, on a commercial vehicle it's going to have the wheels off probably every 6 months at the very, very least, then I can understand why you would use that argument. But on an agricultural tractor where the wheels might not come off for a number of years, if you don't put grease on it, you stand a good chance of struggling when you come to take it off again. And it's at this point that I remember that we're missing a wheel nut. So I need to order a new one. Right, so that's buzzed them up with the impact wrench. And we'll just tighten them. We'll put the tractor on the floor first. That'll do, apart from the fact I need a new wheel nut. Now we'll put the other side brake on. I think I've already cleaned this shaft, but we'll just double check. Slip the inner disc on. And then put the other side unit on. Now the other side unit is not quite as easy to line up as the right side because you haven't got a diff lock hole to centre the plate with, and you've not got a camera in the way, so you can't reach either. Try it with the camera in a different place. There we go. So that's the brake assembly back on. We just need to connect the rod that goes up the foot brake. And we need some grease on it as well. So I've just adjusted the brake on the other side, and I'm going to pull this one up a similar amount, and I'm going to check the pedals and see how far out of balance we are. Well, I think that's probably about the right place. I'll take the camera with me and we'll have a look. Oh no, it needs a lot more. Look, this one just goes down about halfway, and this one's going right off the bottom. So we'll adjust that. So I've adjusted the other side off camera, and that's how much brake travel we got, which is probably plenty, but we can soon pull it up a bit because there'll be a bit of bedding in. And on this side, yeah, it's about the same, probably a little bit tighter. So what we'll try and do is move the adjuster, the lock nut up on the adjuster and lock it off so we can hold it in position. And then we'll do a brake test. And there we have it, the brakes adjusted so they touch and locked off. The next job will be a drive around the yard to make sure everything's working properly. But I hardly dare open the door and look out there because it's been howling gale and pouring rain all the time I've been in here. So I know when I started this project, I did say to you that I was going to have the cylinder head off and I was going to take the radiator off. But I've learnt from experience it's best not to disable a tractor prematurely, because you never know when you might want it, and you never know when you might want to get to something that's behind it. For that reason, I tend to run a number of projects at the same time. And one of those projects is sitting right in front of this tractor, and I need the forklift to move it. Does anybody recognise that? It's the fluid flywheel and gearbox out of a car, and it's a Chrysler Talkflight. So if you've got to guess what you think it's out of, leave me a comment below. I might even show you the car when I put the gearbox back in. So I've decided I'm going to take it for a run outside. The rain stops and starts, so we'll pick a spot. We've got brakes. we'll do now, we'll take it for a drive and put the brakes on with them locked together and see if both the wheels stop. As you can see, it's been raining a bit. I need to clean the drain out, that's another job. Okay, will it stop? Yeah, that's not bad. Yeah, and it stops in a straight line. Yeah, I think that'll do, and I don't think we need to balance them, which is very unusual. Normally you'd expect to need to balance the brakes.
And here's the archive video that I promised you earlier. It's the little 275 pulling a McCormick Deering binder, and I think it's about 20 years ago. That's the brakes finished on the little B275. Radiator next, then we'll be able to keep some water in it. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have, don't forget to click the thumbs up button and give us a like. If you'd like to know when we launch another video, just click the subscribe button. A really big thank you to everybody that's supporting the channel. Thanks for watching this video, and we'll see you all again very soon.